Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm going to wait for some people to join in with the chat. But while I'm waiting here, I'm going to go ahead and put some stuff in. Hello, dealing with criticism. How are you? Today's live is going to be about how I manifest anything. Hi, Candace. Hi, Snow N. Am I saying that right? But yeah, as you're coming in, please say hi. I'm going to be talking about how I manifest anything with the law of attraction. This is some non-conventional advice, which I do like to give. And also, when you come in, if you've got questions about manifesting, please do put them in the chat because I'm going to answer as many of them as I can. Hello, everybody. Oh, a lot of people just came in. Hello, hello, hello. Hi, Wendy. Hi, Alfred. Hi, David. Yes, please say hi. Tell me what your questions are about manifesting. And I did it live last week. I really had a lot of fun. It seemed like a lot of people enjoyed it. So I figured I'd do another one. If you're enjoying these, let me know. And just like last week, what I'm going to do is I have some advice, some non-conventional advice on how to manifest anything that you want. And I'm going to talk on that throughout the live. And then in between my points, I'm going to take your questions. Okay. So make sure to write down your questions about what you want to know about manifesting. Additionally, my assistant should be in here. She's going to be moderating the chat. Her name is Mary. I think it's Mary 1111. If you see her, say hi. She'll be in there. And then also as a quick plug, before I get going, I have had personal coaching that's been going this week only, and it is closing on Thursday. If you are interested in getting personal coaching, that is going to be ending on Thursday. I'm going to go ahead and put that link in the chat if you are interested. And then if you're watching this after the live goes to publish, it will be in the description. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and get started since we have some of you guys on the chat now. All right. So the first thing I want to mention about how I manifest anything that I want is that this is not going to be a live about how to script, how to journal, how to visualize, none of that. Okay. And so what I really want to talk about is kind of getting away from technique and more into resonance with being the kind of person who can just naturally draw to you the things that you want. So some of these things like the visualization, the scripting, the journaling, the vision boards, I know we've probably all done them, okay? And they can be very useful tools and you can have some success with them for sure. But one thing you may have noticed is that when you're using these techniques, sometimes you may have some initial success, but then they don't work. Or perhaps the techniques work on smaller to mid-sized dreams, but then on your bigger dreams, they fall short. And it's not that they can't work, but rather it's because of the attitude that we take when we use processes. Okay. And so processes or actions or techniques often imply that vibrationally, on some level, we still believe that I have to do something to get a result, rather than what we're going to talk about in today's live, which is about having the attitude of just being someone who draws stuff to you. Okay. And so I want to talk about what are the components of that attitude, because you really want to have those components so that you can attract the things that you want. And there's been a lot of things that I've been able to manifest that have just come very, very easily. I am not a person who comes from a life of means. I've mentioned this ad nauseum on my channel that, I've been broke, I've worked really hard and all that kind of stuff. And I've managed to manifest a lot of crazy stuff because of this attitude shift. Okay. And so, having a YouTube channel that's very successful, having a business that's very successful, having a really nice car in the driveway. Just took my son to a trip to Paris, just all this kinds of stuff that old me, there's no way. Okay. No way she ever would have manifested this stuff because she didn't have this attitude. Okay. So again, this is not a live about technique. It's more about a live about attitude. what you can do to make sure you manifest the things that you want. Okay. So before I get going, I want to scroll through here and see, because I'm sure some people have written in with some questions. Again, if you've got questions about how to manifest anything you want, go ahead and drop them in the chat. I'm going to answer as many of them as I can. And also, let me know, is the sound okay on this live? Like, does it sound like I'm using like a real microphone? Because I just changed microphones. I want to make sure it sounds good. If it sounds like I'm just working on the speakers of my computer, let me know, because I want to make sure I use this one correct. All right, so I'm looking through here for some questions. Okay. Oh, Candace, thank you very much. I really liked the last live. It suits you to do it. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, quite a few questions here. I'd say so many good ones. All right. Here's one. It's a pretty easy one, but it's one a lot of people have. So I want to make sure to hit this one. Bavin, I think that's how you pronounce the name. Maybe not. Maybe Bavin. How to change your beliefs, which have been negative for a long time. Okay. When it comes to manifesting, yes, that's very important. So if you're holding on to residual negative beliefs for a long time, those particular beliefs can stick. And this is something that a lot of people get frustrated with, is that they have a belief that they know they need to get rid of. But how do you get rid of a belief that you've been thinking for a long time? Okay. So understanding that, through the law of attraction, the more you think a thought, the more you're going to think a thought, is critical to understand, which is that the first thing you want to do is kind of let yourself off the hook. A lot of times people who are conscious creators beat up on themselves because they're still thinking negative thoughts from the past. Well, what you have to understand is, if you picked up a thought years ago or even decades ago, that thought has had a lot of time to get in there. Okay. And it's really on repeat, and it's just going to keep whacking you in the head. Okay. Regardless of what you do to stop it. Okay. So, what I mean by this is that we want to think of it more as transitioning out of a limiting belief rather than altering it like this. Okay. Transitioning is a much easier way to look at it. Okay. So, what you want to try and do is, like, let's say you have a belief like, I'm not worthy. Okay. Let's just use this one. That's a big one for a lot of people. I'm not worthy. All right. And that's been going on for a long time. Well, what you want to do is you want to identify the opposite belief. Okay. So, what's the positive end of I'm not worthy? That belief is I am worthy. Right. Now, at first, that new belief, that I am worthy belief, is not going to sound true. It's going to sound fake. It's gonna sound like baloney, and you're not going to believe it. Why? Because you have this well-rehearsed belief of I am not worthy. Okay, so at first, that new belief is going to sound like nonsense. And that's something to understand, that if it feels fraudulent, it's supposed to from the beginning. But you are transitioning from a negative belief into a positive belief. Now, your goal moving forward is to practice that new belief of I am worthy, or whatever it is. I am wealthy, I'm capable, I can do it. You want to practice that. But not only do you want to tell yourself that, but you also want to start collecting data and evidence that that belief is true. This is where a lot of people fall short in explaining how to think a new thought. A lot of times they'll just give you affirmations, and maybe you've watched some of those affirmation videos where you just listen to the same affirmation over and over and over. I am worthy, I am worthy, I am worthy, I am worthy. But it doesn't really like get in. Okay. And the reason why is that as you're hearing that, the old belief is like challenging it. I'm not worthy. That's not true. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to practice your new belief, but you also want to look for evidence of it. So a really great thing that you can do is something that, they often call ask formations. Just ask yourself, how am I worthy? How am I worthy? Okay. So instead of saying I am worthy, ask yourself, how am I worthy? And think about that and see what comes up. If you can access some data, like, you know what, I'm worthy because I'm a nice person, or I'm worthy because, everyone's worthy. If you can access some information like that quickly, that's good. If nothing comes to you, just ask it and put it out there. Universe, how am I worthy? Please tell me how I'm worthy. And something that will happen is, if you do that every day where you're asking that question and putting it out there, When you're in the flow, when you're in the zone, you're going to get data back. You'll get reminders, you'll get insights about how you are worthy. And that's going to change how you think. But remember, this is a process. Think of it more as transitioning. Okay. And also realize that if a thought is negative and it's really dominant, even if you do all that work, that old belief may come up from time to time, and that's okay. That's okay. All right. Don't fight against it, because fighting against it will keep it active. Okay. Great question. Also, guys, if you've got questions about how to manifest, please go ahead and drop them into the chat. I'm going to answer as many of them as I can. But in between questions, I'm going to talk about what I do to manifest anything that I want. And as I mentioned earlier, this is not a live that has anything to do with, scripting or visualizations or all of those techniques. This is more about an attitudinal shift. Okay. So let's get into it. All right. Oh, coming in hot. Okay. This is something that you can do and start to do now that can improve your manifestation rate tremendously. It is a personal mantra. It is something I want you to think about, and I want you to focus on, daily. And particularly when you manifest something, I don't care if you manifest something small, you manifest a parking spot, do this. Okay. You manifest a smile from somebody, do this. I see a butterfly float by, I do this. Okay. And we want to ingrain this in the mind. And so the mantra is simple. Okay. The mantra is, I am a good manifester. I am a good manifester. Okay. Now, what does this have to do with how Andrea manifests anything that she wants? Okay. Well, it's simple. If you can get it in your head, and you can, that you are a good manifester, you are going to start to align with the idea that you can just have things come to you. Why? Because you're a good manifester. I don't need to do a bunch of scripting. I don't need to do a bunch of journaling. I don't need to do all these other techniques. I'm a good manifester. I'm a good manifester. Okay. This is a really important thing to do. And it's something that I have noticed that people who are good at manifesting without technique often have this kind of an attitude. I just kind of get what I want. I manifest what I want, rather than I'm really good at scripting, or I make a killer vision board. Okay. And those things, again, can be helpful, but they imply that you have to do something. And so this simple mantra does a lot of the work for you, because if you get this one in your head, like we were just talking about how to shift limiting beliefs and how to install a new belief, this is a new belief you want to install. I am a good manifester. And if you don't believe that way, again, like we just mentioned, ask, how am I a good manifester? Or ask the universe, how am I a good manifester? When you manifest something that you want, even if you didn't ask for it, something good comes your way. That's right. Of course it came to me. Why? Because I'm a good manifester. That butterfly just floated by. Why? Because I'm a good manifester. The sun just came out today. Why? Because I'm a good manifester. Okay. Sounds silly, but it works. Because what's going to happen is that as you ask for big things, you ask for, like, where is that? The YouTube channel. Okay. You ask for the watch, you ask for the business, you ask for the car, you ask for the relationship. If in the back of your mind, you're like, doesn't matter because I'm a good manifester, that's a blanketed belief that can attach itself to any desire and allow you to manifest it. Okay. So a lot of times people are trying to prove to themselves that they're good manifestors. They're trying to become good manifestors. I'm learning the law of attraction. I'm getting better at the law of attraction. We want you to start to get into the mindset that I am a good manifester, period. And the truth of the matter is, you are. Okay. Your entire reality, whether or not it appears that way, has been manifested by you. All of it. And there's a lot of stuff going on that you just put there automatically, without having to do anything, without having to vision board it, without having to script it, without having to visualize it. You just did it automatically. Okay. And so that's a really great thing to start thinking about as an attitude shift to enable you to manifest anything you want. Okay. Now, I do have some more points here on how to manifest anything that you want. And I'm going to look for some more questions. So if you've got questions on manifesting, go ahead and drop them into the chat. I'm going to go ahead and answer as many of these as I can, because I do like your questions. Okay. Christy, okay, this is a lot of good questions. Christy says here, okay. I started digital marketing 7 months ago and loving it, but haven't made the sales I want to. I gain followers every day. How do I manifest the sales? Ooh, such a great question for, entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs. How many of you can relate to this? I know when I started working in, doing my own thing and trying to make money through sales, I can understand this question. Okay. So a lot of it has to do with focus. All of it has to do with focus. Okay. One thing you said here that's really great. I gain followers every day. Okay. I haven't made the sales, but I gain followers every day. Okay. You also said that you're loving it. So we're not in a situation here where you feel horrible about it. And there's something that's working for you. Okay. Here's what's working for you. You're getting followers every day. You're getting followers every day. So this is how I would frame this particular situation. If you want to manifest sales, you have to kind of get in the mind frame that what you're doing is drawing in sales. It's drawing in business. A lot of times, this is something I actually did for myself, very helpful. A lot of times when people are trying to manifest sales, they're focusing just on the sales. Okay. So if the sales come in, then I had a success. But if the sales didn't come in, I did not have a success. And the problem with that is that if you're a new business person, you're starting with zero sales. So if you're waiting for a sale to come in to celebrate a sale, you're going to be waiting forever, right? That's waiting for the external world to manifest for you before you actually manifest it on your own. And that keeps you in a holding pattern. So what we always want to do in those situations is we want to find ways to look for how is the sale actually already done or already on its way? How can I do that from where I'm standing? Okay. So what you've got going on right now is you've got followers. And so when I get things like followers, subscribers, someone joins a newsletter, whatever, somebody comes up to me, oh, I watch your channel. Whenever I see something like that, what I see is future business. Now, a lot of times people don't like the idea of future business. I want the present business because they say, oh, it's pushing it off to the future. But it does kind of shift your mindset into today, I did make money. Okay. I made money. I made followers. These are future buyers. Okay. So I made money for the future today. Okay. So that's one of the things that I do within my own business is I look at sales that come in today, but I also look at other metrics like subscribers, followers, people who come in through an email, whatever. I look at those and I see those as a dollar. I see those as a sale. I see those as buyers. Okay. So it's something that I would recommend doing. Whatever is working, here's the real important piece in business. Whatever is working, you want to like tunnel into that. Okay. If followers are working, funnel into followers. Okay. Really get into that because whenever you focus on something that's working, that will work more. And then the other things that aren't working will start to go up as well. A lot of times in business, we'll do this where we'll look at what's not working. Okay. So maybe the sales aren't coming from this particular product or this particular thing, and we don't pay attention at all to subscribers, followers, et cetera. That's happened to me as well, where perhaps I'm looking at sales for the day and I'm getting hung up on sales aren't coming, sales aren't coming. Well, then that affects the followers. But if I look at the followers and they're working, that will boost the sales. So always be moving your focus around to what in your business is working. And don't just look at sales that are coming in, but also count future sales. That's very, very helpful. All right. Thank you so much for your question. Of course, guys, if you've got questions about manifesting, put them in the chat. And I've got some more information here that I'm going to intersperse throughout this live on how I manifest anything I want. I manifest a lot of stuff. I'm not a big journaler. I'm not a big scripter. I'm not a big vision boarder. I like the techniques. They're fun once in a while. But I want you guys, to understand what I understand if you're not quite at that point yet, which is that those things aren't necessary. Okay. You want something, you can have it. Okay. And it has to do with the attitude that you've cultivated and your belief structures internally, not necessarily what you're writing down or even what you're saying or what kind of pictures you're looking at. It has more to do with the essence of who you are. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the next one here. Okay. This one, hopefully this is one you know, but if you don't know it, or maybe you don't know it as fully as you could. Okay, a lot of people talk about this, but this has to be like so important. Okay. All right, and it's to lean heavily, and I mean heavily, heavily on detachment. Lean heavily, heavily, heavily on detach. We don't just detach when we want to get, the boyfriend, or when we want to get the car, or when we want to get the job. Do not wait to detach for when something big is on your mind. Okay. Now, it's important to detach if there's something that you want to manifest. It's important to detach, but you want to make this the essence of who you are is that you let go and you detach, period. I don't care what it is. You let go and you detach. You're in traffic, sitting in traffic, stuck, not moving. Find a way to make it not matter to you. Okay. If you're in an argument with somebody, say your point and get out of there. Okay. But a lot of people are trying to make things work, and like little things, trying to get my husband. Oh my gosh. Love my husband, but he's really good at like really sticking with the problem. Okay. So maybe there's something that we need to fix. Like, okay, so here's a perfect example. I have this closet that we had built, okay, for me in our room. And there's this drawer that pulls out. It's a nice closet, nice drawer. Well, something happens. And like last week, I go to open it and it almost falls on me. And so I tell my husband, I'm like, okay, well, something's up with this. I don't know. I'm not handy. So do you want to have a look at it? Well, my husband's like a dog with a bone. Okay. He's in there looking at it. He's got his tools. He's pulling screws out, and he won't put it down. He won't put it down. Like he's not, it's for some reason it's not working, but he keeps going at it and going at it and going, and it's not working, not working, not working. Finally, we kind of remind ourselves, you got to let this go. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, maybe I could just call the closet company. Maybe they can fix it. Let it go. And called them up. Oh, sure, no problem. We can come fix it for free. And it was done. Easy peasy when he let it go. Okay. So you don't want to be the dog with the bone where you stick with the problem. And so this is something that helps you manifest anything, because you want to practice detaching with the little things. That crazy customer, let it go. Okay. Problem with your email, let it go. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to just ignore all of life's problems or that you can't fix things. But if you're having a struggle in any area of life at any time and you're finding yourself really getting frustrated, you always want to stop, take a deep breath and pause and come back to it later when you're calm. And this has to be something that's going on constantly. Again, a lot of times people want to wait to detach until they have something big that they actually want. Okay, well, now I really want to manifest the marriage proposal. So I got to figure out how to detach. But the poor girl's been attached to everything else her whole life. Well, so how are you supposed to detach for that big thing that you really want when you are unwilling to detach from the small problems in life, the small issues? Okay, and so the things that we're talking about today are building up those really great manifesting skills so that they're so dominant in you that it doesn't matter what you want, you know how to detach, because you can detach from stress and issues and problems easily. You're used to putting them down. A great thing to remember when it comes to detachment is that, you're not the one fixing the problems. Okay. You put them away, and then that puts out the message that it's not a problem. And then the problem solves itself. A lot of people are under this false belief that if they just keep hammering away at it, they're going to fix it. But we all know that doesn't work. How many times have you really gotten in there? Like, let's think about it. If you're having an argument with somebody, if I just explain myself more, she's going to get it. He's going to get it. Does that happen? No. Okay. The more I try to make them see my way, the more they argue with me. That's the way everything works. The more you try to fix those problems, the more you stay attached to trying to make it work, the more it's going to break down, the more it's not going to work, the further it's going to get from you. And that's true on the micro level with little things like emails and difficult customers. And it's true on the macro level. So things like the house, the car, the job, the spouse, it doesn't matter what. Okay. So learning how to detach heavily will help you become the kind of person who can manifest anything because at that point, it doesn't matter. You're so used to detaching, it doesn't matter if you want something like an enormous trip around Europe. It doesn't matter. Easy, no problem. I can detach because I'm used to detaching. Okay, so that's the next point we have. I'm gonna look through the chat here at some of the questions that you guys have on manifesting. Again, if you do have questions about manifesting, drop them in the chat. I'm gonna answer as many as I can. Oh, oh wow, I just jumped up here. Oh, I saw one I wanted to do, but then it just jumped. Maybe I should detach and pick a different one. Oh my gosh. Okay. Here's a different. Yeah, okay. Let's do this one. LT says, "Hi Andrea. I'm in that waiting period between the interview and the potential job offer. Any tips on keeping detached but not negative about the outcome? Thank you." Ooh, I like this. Waiting periods. Yeah. Okay. So these are like the challenges with detachment. Okay. So when there's a situation where you literally have to wait, like you're waiting for the phone call, or you're waiting for the job offer, or you're waiting for the person to text, or you're waiting for the person to call, that period of time, okay, can really throw a monkey wrench for a lot of people when it comes to detachment, right? So I get this question. This is a more masterful thing to get used to doing, is dealing with those waiting periods. Okay. So one thing that you do want to do during a waiting period is you do want to distract. Okay. So a lot of times what people will do is, like, let's say that you're waiting for the job offer and you know it's going to come via email. One thing that people will frequently do is they'll be checking that email like 700 times a day. Okay. Or they're checking their text messages all day long. They're checking all this stuff, their voicemail all the time. You want to make sure that you stop that. Okay. So, one thing that I might recommend doing if that has been an issue is, like, maybe put an alarm on your phone, like, all right, at 5 o'clock, I'll check my email. And that's it. Okay. And then the rest of the day, we're doing something else. Okay. One thing that can really kind of push manifestation away is if we keep checking, keep checking, keep checking. Because when you're constantly checking your email or your voicemail or your text messages, what you're saying energetically is this going to show up? When's this going to show up? Why hasn't this showed up yet? And the universe hears that. It hears it's not here yet. It's not here yet. Is it here yet? It's not here yet. And so what will happen is you get stuck in that holding pattern where you're waiting, 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 not getting an answer, not getting an answer. And then you become anxious and stressed and attached, and it doesn't come. Either they don't get back to you, or when they get back to you, you don't get the message that you want. So, what you really want to do is you want to find ways to fill your time. Now, sometimes it can be helpful to pick something fun to do. If you're in a position where you're trying to manifest a job, it may be helpful for you to continue to put out applications or to keep doing things that keep you in that zone of, I've got lots of options. I've got options that are out there. Not because you don't want this job, but it's kind of like if you were dating, okay? Let's say you kind of have your eye on this one person over here, but it doesn't really click and they're not really your person. It can be helpful to continue to kind of flirt and date so you have other people kind of waiting in the wings. Now, I know that sounds toxic and horrible, but it always does a really good job, an effective job of making the person that you want more attracted to you. And everyone thinks it's because the other person's jealous. No, it's because you believe you've got options. You believe you have, options that you don't need to be all hung up on this one. There's all these other ones over here. Okay, so that's another thing that you can do when you're waiting, is that if there's something that's really important to you, go do other stuff. So, like, I'll do that if I have something, like if I'm selling a new course or something and I'm waiting to see if the sales come in. Sometimes I'll go do fun stuff, or sometimes I'll go work on other things in my business. so that I'm not fixated on this one thing working out. Well, I'm working on other things in my business. So if that doesn't work out, these ones will work out. And because I'm not stressed about it, then sales come in. Okay. So that's what I would recommend for that one. All right. If you guys got questions about how to manifest things, put them in the chat, please. And I'm going through some of my top tips here on how I manifest anything. I've got another one for you. And again, these tips are not about techniques, they're more about attitudes that you want to develop and cultivate so that these become dominant. Okay. So, again, the first one was about, getting it into your head that you're a good manifester. Okay. And then we talked about leaning heavily on detachment. What's the next one we got here? Oh, okay. This is a great one. And I talked on this in the last live, and I had a lot of people ask questions about what I meant, or can I elaborate on this more? And this is such an important thing to be doing that I definitely want to give this some airtime in this live. And it's about validation. Validation. So most people who understand about the law of attraction, they understand the importance of having a good vibration and the importance of being positive. And they also understand that when we're in a negative mood, or when we're upset, or when we're angry, we start creating negatively in our reality. Okay. So positive mood, good, negative mood, bad. That's the way most people think about it. Positive mood, good, negative mood, bad. Okay. And then what often happens, and this happened to me when I started learning about the law of attraction, and I see a lot of people deal with this. So it's so common. If you're dealing with it, you are in good company. Most people go through this. But there's often this period of time where we start to veer into what they call toxic positivity. And that doesn't mean you're a toxic person or you're a bad person or anything like that. But what it means is it's this idea that in order for, me to be good, I have to be positive all the time. I can't be negative. I can't think negatively. Negative thoughts are bad. They're bad. Okay. Okay. So here's the problem. Yes, positive thoughts are good. And negative thoughts do create negatively in your reality. They do. Okay. That is true. But what we want to do, we don't want to say negative thoughts are bad. I don't want them. I exclude them. Instead, what we want to do is we always want to validate them. Negative feelings are a good thing. They are helping me somehow, and I am benefiting from them. Now, hear me out. Why this is such an effective technique at helping you manifest anything you want is that if something happens that indicates to you that your dream's not going to come true, it's not coming your way, it isn't going to work, what will happen, okay? What will happen is you will have a moment, at least a moment, where you start to feel like, oh, it's not working. And you start to feel negative. Now, if in that moment you decide to go toxically positive and say, oh, no, can't think that, can't feel bad. This is okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. And you pretend to be happy. What happens in that moment is you start pushing against your negative feelings. Not allowed to feel negative. Not allowed to feel negative. Okay. That's invalidation. It's pushing out, it's excluding. And although in that moment you're trying to be positive, what's actually happening is that because you're trying to push out your negative feelings, you are separating, which drags your vibration down even more. Negative vibrations, low vibrations are about segregation. They're about things coming apart. They're about exclusion. I don't want this. I don't want that. This is bad. Get out. That is a lower vibration. A higher vibration is about inclusion. This is, excuse me. This is good. I want this. Bring this in. This is helping me. Okay. Now, that includes your negative emotions. Your negative emotions. This is a game changer when it comes to manifestation, because if you can become the kind of person, and anyone can do this. You can absolutely do this. If you can become the kind of person that when things don't look like they're going your way, you're able to say, okay, I don't feel good about that, but you know what? That's probably a good thing. There's probably something good in there for me. So let's see if we can figure out what it is. I'm glad this negative emotion is here right now because it's showing me something I need to see. It's pointing out a limitation, or it's changing my direction for me. I'm glad that this is here. Okay. I don't like this, but there's a good reason for this negative feeling. Rather than pushing against your negative feelings, you want to validate them. Always be validating them. Because when you're always validating what's happening, what you're saying to the universe is things are working out for me. This is good for a reason. This is helping me out. Things are working out for me. Even when it looks like things aren't working out for me, things are working out for me. And when you have that kind of an attitude, it does not matter what kind of a pickle you end up in because you have that attitude that it's working out for you somehow. There will be a benefit on the back end. This is a really amazing thing that you want to be doing is you always want to be validating. Now, that doesn't mean that we want to try and veer into negative feelings and negative emotions, and we don't want to sit there and complain and cause problems where problems don't exist. That's not productive, okay? So if you're in that I'm trying to be toxically positive camp, that doesn't mean you're a bad person or that you're no, it means that you're trying really hard to stay positive, and we want to keep that. You want to keep trying to be positive, but we want to change the framework that if I'm feeling negative, that's okay. And you know what? It's helping me somehow. It's helping me somehow. Now, the biggest way that it's helping you is that your emotions are guidance, and hopefully you've heard of this by now, but your emotions are guidance. They tell you when you're in resonance with the things that you want or when you're falling out of resonance with the things that you want. And so when you feel negative, it is your sign from the universe to stop what you are doing. That's what it's trying to tell you to do. And so that analogy, a lot of people talk about the hand on the stove analogy. Maybe you've heard of this one. Okay, so it's the same thing. If you put your hand on a hot stove, your hand is going to feel pain. And that's, the universe's way of telling you, get your hand off the stove. Okay. The same thing is true of your negative emotions. If you're in a situation where suddenly you feel like garbage, that's the universe's way of saying, okay, stop what you're doing. What you're doing right now isn't working. Back it up, go do something else, put it down, try something else. That's it. Your negative emotions are a stop sign. That's it. And that's why your negative emotions should always be validated because they're there giving you guidance. That's what they're doing. Okay. Just like if your hand didn't get burnt, if your hand didn't feel that pain, you would completely destroy your hand, keeping it on the stove. Well, if you didn't feel negative emotion, you would keep hammering away in the same way forever until you completely ruined your life because that's what happens. And we've all seen this where we get negative and then we attract more bad things and then we stay negative and then more bad stuff comes and then more bad stuff comes. And then eventually you have that moment where you're like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just not going to care anymore. I'm going to have a good day. I'm going to go do something else. And that's the moment that things change around. Okay. So we always want to be validating our negative emotions. And this is something you can practice all the time because you're always getting real-time feedback from the universe. Always. You're always either in a good mood, an okay mood, or a bad mood. And so whenever that bad mood starts to creep in, you know what? Thanks for showing up. Thanks for letting me know. We kind of veered off course. Let's get back on course now. Always be validating. So this is another skill that you want to practice because if you're always validating and you're doing this with the small stuff, when something doesn't work out with the big dream, or, it doesn't look like it's going to work. Oh, he didn't call. Oh, she didn't text. Oh, the job interview didn't come through. All that stuff starts going on. You are able to immediately start validating. Okay, you know what? I'm not feeling so great. So this must be working out for me because this is telling me to move in this direction. This direction must be the right direction. Thank you, negative emotions, for pointing me in the right direction and keep it moving. Okay. All right, let's find some more questions here from you guys. Again, if you've got questions on manifesting, drop them in the chat. Lots of questions. Okay. Peter, how can I get into the energy of being wealthy while being at work every day and seeing my bank account is not reflective of a wealthy person? How do I get into the state? What should it feel like? Okay. Many ways you could do this. I give you my favorite one. Okay. This one has to do with comparison. Okay. So when we talk about somebody being wealthy, what that implies is like everyone's like right here. And then we have people that are poor. And then we have people up here who are wealthy. Okay. And so what's happening is that typically if somebody has a hard time viewing themselves as wealthy because they're not wealthy yet, what they're doing is they're comparing where they are to like that wealthiest 1%. And they're going, oh, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. And that sounds like what's going on in this question, right? So I'm sitting at work. I'm not rolling around in a Bentley. Okay. I'm not doing I'm not summering in the south of France. So obviously I'm not wealthy, Andrea. So how am I supposed to feel wealthy? Well, what you can do, instead of looking up here, look down. And I don't mean look down on people like you're better than them. But what I want you to do is to start to notice, how wealthy am I comparatively to where I could be? So there's many ways you can do this. You can look at people in your world who are struggling. You can pay attention to those kinds of things. And I don't mean like get into there to the point where you start to get dragged down by it, but look at them through the lens of gratitude. Okay? So like if you live here where I live in the United States, there are people who are wealthy, there are people who are poor. It is true. Let's say that you're poor in America, okay, and you're watching this. Well, Andrea, who am I supposed to look at? Well, I mean, there are some countries that are doing much worse, right? The comparison thing can be really good because what it starts to get you to do is to focus on what you do have. I do have a home, or I do have running water, I do have food, I do have this, I do have that. Accumulating more wealth is about focusing on what I have. There's this song, this is like a law of attraction song. I got to mention this. I haven't mentioned this ever, but it's a song by Ray Charles, and it's called Them That Got. If you've ever heard of this song, tell me about it. Let me know in the chat. It's a song by Ray Charles, and it's called Them That Got. And it's really a law of attraction song. And it's this guy who's saying, them that got always get, okay? But I don't have anything, so I don't get anything. That's the basic gist of the song in a nutshell. But as you're listening to the song, if you understand the law of attraction, what you're noticing is he's focusing on what he doesn't have. I don't have this, so I don't get more. All these other people get more because they already have stuff, but I don't have anything, so I don't get more. Okay? That's the essence of what I'm talking about here. In that song, Ray Charles could have done it differently. I think he chose to do it this way for a reason, but he could have focused on, this is what I've got, and now I get more. Okay. And that's kind of the essence of what we want to be doing, is that you want to start to position yourself in your own mind as, I am fortunate, I am wealthy, I do have. Okay. So, and I could look at this like in terms of, I'll give a personal story from myself, just, to kind of illustrate the point. A lot of times people will complain about things like problems with family. Okay. They don't have a relationship with this one or that one. Things aren't working, blah, blah, blah. Now, for me personally, I grew up in a very isolated situation. So I had my family as a kind of a narcissistic family structure, and they broke away from the rest of the family. So I was growing up, I didn't really get to know my cousins or my grandparents or any of these people. I have a lot of extended family I don't really know. And a deteriorated, non-existent relationship with my parents. And so plenty of reasons to say I don't have family. Family's not working out for me. Okay. But I did have one relationship with my brother that was like really strong, really strong. And so when people would ask me about my family, I always focused on my brother. I have this great relationship with my brother. We're so close. I'm so thankful to have him, and just really dialed in on brother. Okay. So that's to the point where, like, all these other ancillary relationships is not a big deal to me. And as I've dialed into that, I've accumulated more family. So now I have a husband and I have children. I now have a relationship with one of my uncles, and I can see it branching out more, 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 more. And I'm one of those people that started off with like no family. And now I've got all these family members that are actually close, that I actually love. Okay. The same is true with wealth. Focus on what you have, and it will become more. And the easiest way to do that, again, is to don't stop looking up here. I don't have this, and this, and start noticing, wow, I have a lot compared to that, and that. I am so fortunate. Look how wealthy I am. I have this, and this. Okay. That's my biggest suggestion for that one. All right. On to my next point here on how I manifest anything that I want. Again, if you've got questions, please put them into the chat. And again, all of my things that I'm teaching you today are more about becoming the kind of person who just gets what they want. Okay, this isn't about you have to do a bunch of rehearsal or a bunch of scripting, or you have to do anything. This is about having that vibrational essence and those core beliefs and those core kind of behaviors about you that just make you naturally capable of asking for things and getting them, because it's so easy for you to detach. It's so easy for you to validate. You already believe you're a good manifester, etc. Okay. All right. Here is the next one. You got to become a bigger asker. A bigger asker. I want you to start asking more. You'd be surprised. This is one of the top questions I get from people. And I'm always shocked when I get it. Maybe shocked is the wrong word. But when I get it, I'm like, oh yeah, people believe this. What will people will often say and ask me is, am I asking for too much? I feel like I'm being greedy. Yeah. You're not asking enough. Ask more. Ask more. Okay? Ask more. So many people are afraid to ask. They're afraid to ask. They feel like they're being greedy or that it's wrong or that they're not grateful if they're asking for more. Oh my goodness. Your reality is a dream. You get to put into it anything that you want. And so when you don't ask, what you are doing without realizing it is you're keeping your dream very static. Okay. What I mean by that, it stays the same. It feels very much like you're living Groundhog's Day. Things never really kind of change. Maybe you manifest a little bit here and there, but if you're not asking, if you're not really kind of putting it out there that I would like this, I would like that, why not? It's going to stay the same. Now, one of the primary reasons why people don't ask that much is that they just automatically believe they can't have things. Why would I ask for that car? It's never going to happen. I had this experience not too long ago. I was taking my kids to go to the doctors. They had a pediatrician's appointment. And as you may have seen in my videos, I have a nice car. I've got a Maserati Quattroporte. It's a nice car. Okay. And I'm bringing my kids from the pediatrics appointment and we're going to the parking lot and I'm going to get in the car with the kids. And all of a sudden the car next to me, the windows roll down and the woman in the car is like, hey, hey, she goes, I love your car. And I look at her, I'm like, oh yeah. And she's like, oh yeah, I've always wanted one. I'm like, you should get one. And the look in her face was like, oh, there's no way. I could never. Too expensive. It was just automatic. This is never, her mind was made up. I love that car, but never going to happen. Okay. This is what I'm talking about. Okay. If you want something, ask for it. Just start asking, start popping those dreams off. I want the Maserati. I want the this. I want the business. I want the da. Just start asking. Just start asking. So many people just don't ask. They're so tied into those limitations that they don't even ask. And if you're not even willing to ask, you're never going to get out of that limitation. All right. So start asking daily for the things that you want, big, small, and otherwise. Along those same lines, we talked a little bit on ask formations earlier. It's also helpful to ask formations on these. Okay. So instead of just, hey, I want the Maserati, but how could I have it? How could I have a Maserati? Why might a Maserati be mine? How could I manifest in Maserati? Why am I deserving of a Maserati? Start asking those questions. Because the more you start to contemplate, why could I have this? You're going to stop contemplating as much why you can't have this. And so if you have a situation like that where someone comes at you and says, hey, get the Maserati, you might sit there and actually think, well, how could I make that happen? Rather than just immediately shutting it down. There's no way in hell that's ever going to happen. All right. And so this is something that's really important is making it a habit to always be asking for the things that you want. There's nothing wrong with that. This is your reality. If you don't ask, it's going to stay the same. And if you don't love it the way it is, or if you're kind of disappointed in it, you're doing yourself and the world a disservice by not asking for more. So ask for more, okay, on a regular basis, on a daily basis. Even things that you think are crazy. Even think of getting a private plane is crazy, or a yacht, or getting on the Mars, going, I don't want to go to Mars, but you want to go to Mars, ask for it. Okay. Anything is possible. Okay. All right, let's look here for some more questions from you guys. What you guys have. Let's go back up a little bit. So many good questions. Okay, Lisa B. I like this one. And I just put up a video yesterday that's helpful for this one too. Okay. So it's a video on letting go, how letting go can be easy. You may want to watch that one too, because I'm going to talk a little bit on some of the stuff I talked about in there. Um, but you'd also like that video. So Lisa says, how do you manifest changing your situation around? Like you've been working on manifesting and growth and abundance and it's just not coming. In fact, the situation is getting worse, not better. Okay. How many people have had that experience where it just feels like it's going down, 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 down? I talked a little bit on this in the last live, which is that when things start to deteriorate and not work, it's really that we're just focusing on this isn't working, this isn't working, this isn't working. And that just takes us down more and more and more. Combined with this, you say here, I've been working on manifesting and growth, and I've been working on it, which implies I am trying, I am putting in the effort, and I am fighting against what's going on right now. Okay. Whenever someone says, I've been working on this, I've been working on this, and they're getting frustrated, again, they're being like my husband was, like I was talking about earlier, kind of being that dog with that bone. Okay. It's abundance isn't working, so I got to work on it. Okay. When we do that, we start to deteriorate our reality because we're focusing on what's not working. We're trying to focus on accumulating more money, but what we're really focusing on in that moment is that it's not working. That's why I have to try so hard. Okay. So if you're in a situation like that, what can happen is you can start to have like this downward spiral where things just start getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Okay. Now that's because of the law of attraction. So you are using the law of attraction, right? Just not in the direction you want to be using it in. Okay. But it's still working. It's just not working in the way we want it to. So we have to change our tactics. And so something I talked about in the video I posted yesterday on letting go that's just really helpful is that if you're in that situation where reality is just getting worse, 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 what you can do is you can just kind of shake things up and change things around. Because what we want to do is we want to take your mind off of the problem. Okay. So the problem is I don't like where I am in terms of abundance. And I'm focusing on, I don't like where I am in terms of abundance to the point where now I have less, 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 less. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to shake things up. Shaking things up helps because your mind can only focus on like one thing at a time. Okay. And if you've really become dominant and things getting worse, you've gotten to this point where you've started to ruminate and your mind is really becoming fixated on one thought. And so while I'm working on my abundance over here, I'm not really thinking about a lot of other things. I'm really just singularly focused on this isn't working. Everything else is going on autopilot. Okay. And so what can happen is that your life can just start to run on autopilot. Things are kind of standard, but they're getting worse, worse, worse. And you're just focused on the problem. So what you can do is shake up your reality. And so the technique I talked about was pattern interruption, and it's so helpful. Change your reality, change the way that you go to work, change the kind of clothes that you're wearing. Maybe get a haircut, maybe wait on the haircut till you're feeling better, but change your look a little bit. Talk to different people, watch different television shows. One that's really helpful, and I wish I'd put this in the video because this is like one of my favorite things. Like if you're in a funk, like watch some comedy. Like instead of watching whatever CSI at night or whatever, slightly negative programming you're watching, watch funny stuff. Okay, but change things up. Change things up because what will happen is if you change the stimulus in your environment, it's going to get your mind off of the problem and focused on what all these new things are. Now, ideally, these new things that you're plugging into your reality are fun, they're light, they're interesting, they're engaging. So that instead of your mind thinking about this not working, well, now I'm thinking about how funny this comedy show is, or how nice my room looks now that I changed it up, or how beautiful my hair looks now that I curled it rather than wearing it straight. See what I'm saying? We want to get your mind off of the problem and now focused on what's working. Again, that's the real thing. If you're working on this over here, what you're saying is this isn't working. So what we want to do is we want to kind of switch things up, create some things in your reality that are working or that are fun and focus on those. This was funny. This was good. I'm enjoying this. Things are working out for me. And any single way that you can do that, by the way, is going to help you because it's going to get your mind off of my life isn't working into, wow, look at how much stuff is working for me. Okay. So it's a really simple shift in perspective, getting away from focusing on what's not working to focusing on what is working. Pattern interruption helps because it starts to introduce new things into your world that cause you to look at your world more rather than having all this time to just focus on the problem. Okay, so do some pattern interruption and then notice what's working, what's going well. How are things working out for me? Why is this a fun day? What's easy for me? What am I doing good at? Because that's going to breed more success within you. Success breeds success. Okay, but if we're focused on what's not working, that breeds failure in us. So we have to find a way to change our focus and notice what is working. And pattern interruption can be very helpful again because it shakes things up. It makes it easy for you to focus differently. Okay. All right. Another question here. Not another question. This is another point. Another point on how I manifest anything that I want. I'm coming up on about an hour, so I'll be on for probably another 10 or 15 minutes, just to let you know. This one right here is like my favorite. And I don't talk about this too much. So if you watch a lot of my content, you may not have heard me talk about this. But how I manifest anything I want. Okay. This is an attitudinal shift that you want to start to adopt. Now, I'm going to explain a story of how I've done this. You do not need to go balls to the wall and do it like this, okay? But ideally, you'll get there if you're not already, okay? And it's to push the limits. Push the limits. You want to make pushing the limits part of your character, part of who you are. And I don't mean like in a negative way where you're breaking all the rules and irritating people. But what I mean is you're asking for bigger and you're settling for less. More and more as time goes on. Okay. So this is something I talked about. I don't know. I got this like a year ago and I mentioned it on the channel. Okay. This watch. And sounds like a flex. It is a flex. Okay. But really, this is for the sake of explaining this situation, is why I'm wearing this today. I wanted to explain it to you. This watch is very expensive, okay? It is a $34,000 watch, okay? Yikes. Why did I buy that? I bought this watch. Yes, it's flex, okay? It's flex, right? But the main reason I bought this watch was that I wanted to push the limit, okay? I'm a woman who was poor, okay? I worked multiple jobs. I did not have money. And having a fossil watch was like, wow, okay? That's where I came from, all right? As I started to attract more money, I've started to ask for bigger things, and I've started to give myself permission to take bigger things. So this watch may seem very frivolous. It may seem like a waste of money. I could see a lot of people having negative things to say about it. But the reason I did it was to prove to myself that I could. And then we keep pushing the limit. And that's something I want to impart to you, is that you always want to be pushing the limit. It doesn't just have to be money either. This is a monetary example, okay? It could be things like, within a relationship, I'm not going to put up with this kind of crap anymore. I want something better. This is something more important to me. Here's another way I do it. At the gym, you guys know that I go to the gym a lot, okay? I will try new things, new exercises that people my age don't do. Okay. A lot of people are asking, how do you do this? How do you do that? I can do things like pistol squats and pull-ups, all kinds of back bend, all kinds of crazy stuff that most 44-year-old women are not doing at the gym. Why? Because I push the limit. Now, when I say push the limit, what I mean is whatever you manifested before, try and do a little better next time. Ask for a little bit more the next time. Ask for a little bit more and keep pushing the limit. When you look at people who are like extraordinarily wealthy or extraordinarily good manifestors, they are asking for some crazy, outlandish, completely outside of earth type things. And so that's something that you want to ingrain in your own mind. It's not because you have to do it. It's not that you have to have a Rolex watch or you have to do back bends. None of that stuff on the surface is important at all. It does not matter what the dream is. It's not important at all. What is important is that in your own mind, you are constantly proving to yourself, I can do, have, or be anything. There is no limit on who I am. Okay, so that's something I want for you to focus on, is that whatever you've been asking for, once you get it, push the limit. And then once you get there, push the limit. And then once you get there, push the limit and keep it, because what it's going to teach you and ingrain in your mind is you can have, do, or be anything. And again, these are all things and techniques that are going to make you the kind of person that it doesn't matter what you ask for, you believe you can have it. And that's really the core essence of being the kind of person who can manifest anything that you want, is that in your mind and in your heart, these things are dominant within you. You know you can push the limit. You know you're a good manifester. You know you're a good detacher. Okay. All right. Let's look through here for some more questions. More questions. And if you've got questions about manifesting, in the chat is good. Let's see. Oh, okay. So I've done some money questions. Let's do a relationship question. Oh, I hope I can say the name right. Is it Magic in the Wild? Okay, I think I got it right. Magic in the Wild asks, question, what do you do when you change your mind a lot? I.e., I had a crush on someone, then I learned some info about them and got all wobbly about them. Now I'm trying to figure out what I want. Okay. I like this question because this has to do, like, with people, this can happen a lot. It can happen in anything really, but you can learn something, it can change your mind. And then, should I try and make it work, or should I get out, or should I get something new? I'm trying to figure it out now that I got wobbly thing. I really like in this question here. Okay, so let's stick with this idea here. If you had a crush on someone and then you learned some info about them and got wobbly, now you're trying to figure out what you want. Here's a really important thing to understand about dynamics. And we'll talk about this in the context of relationship. A lot of people have this idea that I'm going to get it, and then that's what it is. So like in the context of like relationships, I'm going to get the person, and then we're going to be married, and then that's it. I'm going to get the job, and then that's going to be my job, and then that's it. Okay. And then if something comes up that makes them wobbly, well, maybe I don't really like this. I don't really like that. It's like, well, now what do I do? Okay. Here's the thing to understand. You are always manifesting in real time. Real time. And the only constant in life is change. So you are going to have experiences with people, with jobs, with all kinds of situations where the energy does change, because that's what energy does. It changes. And instead of trying to look to the future of how do I make sure I get what I want for the future and that this works out for the future, what I want you to do is to kind of circle back into the present moment and realize that the only decisions that you need to make are the decisions that are happening now. Okay. So let's say, for example, that you do have a crush on somebody and it's going well, and then it gets wobbly. That doesn't mean that it's over. And it doesn't mean that you have to fix the problem. And none of that matters. It just means that right now, this energy is no bueno. So what do I want to do right now? Okay. So if I don't want to deal with them right now, then that's what I'm going to do. Or if I want to confront them right now, then that's what I want to do. Or if I want to go on a date with somebody else right now, that's what I want to do. But it doesn't mean anything permanently. It's a really important thing to understand. There's this real strong belief a lot of people have, and I know I've had it too, that there's some permanence attached to these decisions. There's not. Every day you're going to be thrown with stimulus, okay? And how you relate to that is going to dictate where it goes from here. Okay, so what I would always be asking about these kinds of things, is that if you learn something about something that you don't like, well, what do I want to do about this now? And that's it. And then when you get to the future, you can ask yourself the same question then, because all kinds of things could happen. Okay, that person could change around. That person could drop off the face of the earth. You could fall in love with somebody totally different. So many things could happen. You don't need to worry about that. What you just need to notice is that right now, my vibrational guidance is telling me something's off here. What do I want to do right now? And give yourself permission to do that right now. The other thing is, you do not need to be consistent. Okay. A lot of times people, I said I was going to do this, and I said I was going to be that. And so I have to stay committed to this person, or I have to do it this way. No. Moment to moment, you're going to get feedback, and you get to decide moment to moment how you're going to deal with that. So this is another thing, like with relationships, like this one's a big one, is that if you're having issues with people, give yourself permission to handle it however you need to in the moment. Because what that's going to do is it's going to say, I'm in charge of doing what I got to do to stay vibrationally high. I'm going to deal with this situation however I need to. So if there's something wobbly, that's okay. I'm going to deal with it the way I need to. So then my vibration gets higher, and then I attract a more positive result. either from this person or from somebody else or something else happens, but I will get a more positive result. All right. So that's the one thing I really want to hopefully make sense of is that you deal with these things moment to moment. You do not make decisions about this person long term. I know people think that, oh, I got to decide who my husband is, who my wife is, and I got to lock this thing down. You never lock anything down. Everything is always in play. Okay. Everything is always in play. And so you're always playing. And what I mean by that is you're always responding vibrationally. Okay. So no matter what happens, always give yourself permission. Whatever happened, I'm going to deal with this how I need to. And then trust that as long as I'm doing what makes me feel better, everything's going to work out because it will. Okay. So that's the main thing. Don't get ahead of yourself. All right. All right, guys. This has been a lot of fun. As a quick reminder, again, I am closing off audio coaching on Thursday. So if you've been wanting personal assistance from yours truly, that is shutting down on Thursday and maybe earlier if I get too many coaching requests. So this is the only time in 2024 that I am offering audio coaching. So if you wanted it, make sure to go ahead and click the link. I know Mary put it in the chat some places. I think I have it pinned at the top too. So make sure to do that. And then also, Mary, if you would go ahead and put my manifesting test link. If you haven't taken my manifesting test, the free one, I'm going to have Mary throw that one in the chat as well. But thanks so much for signing on, guys. If you like these lives, let me know. Tell me what you thought. If there are topics that you would like for me to just go into next, I'd be very interested to hear what you guys want to know about. But thanks so much for joining in with me. I do appreciate it. And I think that's it for today. All right. Bye, guys.